Yo, let's do this shit. Yeah.
1, 2, 3 into the 4. Snoop, Diggity Dog, and Dr. Dre is at the door, ready to make an entrance, so back on up, cause you know about the rip shit up. Give me the microphone first so I can bust.
Hello, welcome to the Snob and the Slob, our new movie review series here. I'm the Slob. I represent the uneducated, unwashed, popcorn-eating, movie-going masses. I've never taken a movie review class. I've never been published. I'm just here to tell you what I think of the various new features coming out.
And I'm Mr. Stoner, and I detest the term snob, but I suppose that's what I am for this series. And, well, I suppose I've been published in several newspapers, and I've taken some professional courses, and yes, I'm here to give the more, perhaps, reserved opinions on the movies, and, you know, just tell you what you really need to hear.
Yeah, that's all fine and good, but we're here to talk about Thor. Thor is an awesome movie, I'm telling you.
No, that's why you have the hammer.
Yeah. Can't you see I was a fan of Thor when I was a kid? I was one of my own Mjolnir.
You mean Mjolnir?
You know, there's a J in there.
No, it's Norse. You pronounce it with a Y.
What does Secretariat have to do with it?
It's not easy to do what you did. You made my men look like a bunch of minimum wage mall cops. That's hurtful. Would you like to tell me where you received your training? Afghanistan? Chechnya? Who are you?
Alright, now, as I'm sure most people who are interested in going to see this movie knows, this movie is being connected with the previous few Marvel movies that have come out, Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, all leading up to the Avengers movie coming out next year, or 2013, or something like that. And so, the big issue with Thor was how to work in elements of fantasy and magic into what has been primarily a technological and somewhat down-to-earth portrayal in movies like Iron Man. Now, this movie comes with its own specific look that hasn't been seen in those other movies. Now, what did you think of, like, the realms of Asgard? And
I tell you, they did a very good job of making Asgard look right. It could have been tacky, it could have been cheesy, it definitely was over the top, but it was none of the previous things. It looked very good. In the comics, the Rainbow Bridge was a rainbow, and I think that probably wouldn't have come off very well, but they made it look really cool. Some of the Asgardian technology, as it were, looked great. The way they traveled between the realms was very impressive. The CG was good. The 3D was good. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. I mean, in past year, I'm sure some of you have seen some bad 3D movies, of course. This was not one of them.
I liked how a lot of the character and style of Asgard almost was tongue-in-cheek, especially when Thor made his way down to Earth. Just the sort of pompous, high society, elevated race sort of thing that just doesn't fly in New Mexico. And
you're right there.
The contrast there was really interesting, just going from like blasting vibrant plate mail and colors and all that to a bland desert. Now, I had my own issues with that, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, they did a good job with that. Then the other thing when we're talking about the look of the movie is, of course, the action scenes. I mean, this is a big summer action movie, and do the action scenes work? That's what most people, especially, you know, my fellow slobs out there, want to know. Was there good action? Yes, there was very, very good action. Thor was awesome. Some people were talking about having a puny hammer, like mine, but it works. Like, they do a good job of making him look really, really amazing. His fighting technique, the action can get a little choppy. There's some times where it's kind of hard to tell what's going on, but
A lot of it wasn't as bad as a lot of action scenes
Yes.
you see nowadays, though.
Yeah.
And that was refreshing, especially in 3D, where that would just give people headaches.
exactly. So Thor definitely has it in that respect.
All right, now storyline. What'd you think?
Storyline, it was good. The thing with Thor being a god, an immortal god, is to find something that's a challenge for him. So find something that can make him, vulnerable. And Loki, of course, is his all-time arch nemesis. And they did Loki really well. They made him a very believable bad guy. He had good motivation, but you didn't really know what his motivation was, and that's the way Loki always was in the comics. He was a deceiver. He was playing the angles,
It
and
played
this
out
is
very
exactly how. Once you thought you had Loki figured out in this movie, he switched the tables on you again.
I have sacrificed much to achieve peace. For, through your arrogance and stupidity, you have opened these peaceful realms and innocent lives to the horror and devastation of war. You are a vain, greedy, cruel boy. And you are an old man and a fool! You're unworthy! Father. I now take from you your power! And I cast you out!
Alright, so Thor's sort of the classic mythology tale. Thor starts off as the brash, up-and-coming prince who's going to take over his father's throne and make some bad decisions, is banished, and ultimately has to come to his redemption and become wiser and a better king once his ascension comes up. And so he's sent to Earth, locked away from his powers, and just sort of has to figure things out there and redeem himself. Now, I think that's where we might have some disagreements on where this story went. How about you go on ahead?
Yeah, well, for me, I thought that they earned it. I thought that it was very believable, his turn from this brash, cocky, arrogant, not ready for this throne type character. And you could see the changes that happened, the things that made him change to be a more humble, appreciative type of character. Now, they did it very quickly, and they might have been, spent a little bit more time developing it, but then, the movie would have ended up being 2.5 hours long. So I thought for the time that they had to do it, they did it about as good as they could have. That's kind of where I was with it. I thought that they did a good job.
Yeah,
with
now
it.
that was my issue with it. They spent so much time setting up all the mythology, the Asgard, the different realms, and finally they got to Earth and they just didn't have enough time to make that shift believable. I mean, I could see the starts of it. There were some good scenes, and you could sort of see him shifting in that direction, but then sort of the climax shows up, and I just don't feel like he was there yet, but they made him be there. And now the ending, I'm not going to talk about anything, but it suffered from some of the same feelings I had about Iron Man 2's final battle, in that there wasn't enough emotional attachment to the battle that was going on, that I kind of zoned out there for a while. But then it, I didn't care about sort of the environment he was in, the small New Mexico town, where you only got to know a few characters and very briefly. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I have.
He has disobeyed his king. His fate is in his own hands now.
I will end this.
Now, in terms of star power, the actors involved, we have Anthony Hopkins, Natalie Portman, and Chris Hemsworth as the notable names, playing Odin, the love interest whose name escapes me because I didn't care about her, and Thor himself. So, alright, I thought Anthony Hopkins, pretty standard role for him, but I mean, he adds gravitas to anything he's in, so
He definitely wore the crown well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, he's very kingly.
And by the way, her name is Jane Foster.
Oh, Jane Foster. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
I'm sorry.
Hit you over the head with Mjolnir. Mjolnir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Chris Hemsworth, I haven't seen him in much except for the Star Trek reboot from a couple of years ago. Now, with that little acting experience, I was really impressed with how he played off the role. I think he was a perfect Thor. I think he sold it.
Yeah, he did. He was great as a cocky, arrogant SOB. He had a smirk and sort of just an edge to him that made you buy that part of him. He was the cocky, brash prince. And then he turned into a very likable hero. I mean, I genuinely bought into them.
And some of the best moments are him not knowing what he's doing on Earth.
Exactly. And that gets into sort of the comedic element of the movie.
There's some good humor moments.
There is. There really is. They do some gags, some various things with, Thor being an outsider, sort of in an awkward place. It works very well.
Now, Natalie Portman coming off of her Black Swan win with the Oscar. Now, she's been in a string of questionable movies, but I mean, it's certainly not her worst role. And
not at all. It was sort of blasé. Yeah. Like she didn't have very much to work with. She plays an astrophysicist named Jane Foster, and it's not bad. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Please open your eyes.
Oh no, this is Earth, isn't it?
Where did it come from?
Your ancestors called it magic. And you call it science. I come from a place where they're one and the same.
Okay, so just an overall impression summary of the way that I felt about this movie. I thought this was a great movie. I thought that they did as much as they really possibly could with the character, not going over the top, not getting cheesy or into the realm of disbelief. Thor is a really hard character to get right. They did it. It was a good story. It was good action. It was shot well. It was compelling. And it's got probably the most epic Stan Lee cameo that you're ever going to see. So I give this, I thought, an A-. Definitely pay full price to see this movie in 3D if your local theater supports it.
I'd agree with that. Now, this was the Marvel movie I had the least expectations about. I'm really looking forward to Captain America, loved Iron Man, all that. Didn't know much about Thor, went into it. Now, I had my qualms with it. I think there could have been some changes made, beef up the storyline a little bit, but I mean, great action, funny moments, good characters, excellent villain. Yeah, I'd give it a solid B+.
Thanks for watching. That was the Snob and the Slob. Hopefully the first of many. Thanks again.
Mjolnir.
Mjolnir.
Let's not put that in.
I want that in there.
That was terribly awkward. Moving on.
So ready for this? It's scary. Top of the order, Tron sits, so the quarter drops in. I'm in a jumpsuit that glows, 1, 2, and go.